Hey everyone, so I'm just out here. Just wanted to do a quick follow-up review on the PitBoss Pro Series 850 version 2. Had it for a little bit over a year now, and just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things I kind of noticed as I've been using it. One of the things that I've noticed, and first of all, like I really like this thing. It's worked really well. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that a pellet smoker or pellet grill is like a replacement for like an offset or something like that, but I would definitely say that it's more of like a direct replacement for like a charcoal grill. Like the quality of the cook that you get and like the way that the meat turns out when it's done, like with steaks and burgers, if you do those, or just smoky meats, like the same kind of food or product that it produces is very similar to what you get from a charcoal grill or doing any charcoal smoking. So here's the cook chamber. So I've been using it quite a bit. One of the things that I've noticed that's really kind of frustrating with this is like the grates are not. I mean, they work pretty. They're good, but like they're more difficult to get clean. Like stuff just like sticks to it, and it's hard to like get it off. It just is. And I'll take it apart and clean this out pretty good. I spent a lot of time cleaning this thing actually, but it's a little bit dirty right now. But yeah, I'll clean it pretty regularly. One thing that I have noticed though is that like this little rod down here that you're supposed to use to open the chute. So it works, but however, one thing I will say, when you get this thing, if it's cold and you try to like slide it over, it just gets stuck and it won't move. Once you get it going and the firebox gets lit, it'll light up and it'll warm it up there, and then it just moves back and forth, no problem. So it does work, but it does get stuck there in the beginning. I noticed, for mine, for some reason, over here, which is like all the airflow goes up through the smokestack up over there. Over here is definitely the cool side. Over here is definitely the hot side. Um, I mean, I've had this thing on a pretty low temp before, and like actually kind of like burned some food over here sometimes. So be careful with it. At least with mine. If yours is the same, this section over here, like avoid it. If you're smoking anything, if you put anything over there, just keep an eye on it. The one thing that's kind of interesting with this one is, sometimes it does take a minute for it to get it to turn on, but it's just a little bit difficult sometimes with the temps because it only goes in degrees, 10 degrees at a time. So you can't ever hit that 225 a lot of people got to go for. But then once you get up high enough to 300, then it just goes in 25-degree increments. So you don't get as quite as many, you know, options to choose from with this one. Like you can't make it like as fine-tuned as you want it to be. Just with the limitations. And it's had a few firmware updates. I was kind of hoping at some point one of the firmware updates would change that, but just hasn't. That overall works really well though. The prime works really nicely. If you ever want to get like some extra smoke, you just hold down the prime, it spins the auger, dumps some pellets in there, and it really gives a good puff of smoke. The temp gauges work really well. I like the app. The app is nice. The one thing I will say about the app, though, is that if you try to use the timer for the app to remind you of when, food is done, or like when it's getting close, like when you want to check it, once that timer goes off, it will shut off your PitBoss. So you got to kind of be aware of that. Same thing with the temperature gauges. If you use the temperature, the probes, it's fine. Like if you set a target temperature for that, it will shut off as soon as you hit your target temperature as well. So just some things to be aware of. It's not too bad. The hopper is still pretty nice. Doesn't really go through a whole ton of pellets, so kind of happy with that. Like it definitely does a good job. And I do like the fact that when I crank this thing up to a high temp, it works. Like it'll jump up pretty quickly. And I've even used this thing in the wintertime in 0-degree temperature where it was rainy and windy, and it still held its temp. And I did wings a while back where I had to bump up the temp to 400 degrees. I mean, I cranked it up there, and within like 5 minutes it was up to 400 degrees, and it just held its temp. So definitely happy with that as well. Definitely can't complain about how it's just holding its temp, and even during the wintertime, it seems like the metal is just thick enough that it can keep its temp without having to have any type of insulation or anything like that on it. So anyways, overall, like I'm pretty happy with it. Been a really good machine. Just kind of found those few little things that are just kind of like nuances to it that you just have to understand with it. But I mean, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it works very well. And and I've really enjoyed it. Just have to have the proper expectations for it.